Hello, legends and super legends.
Hello.
Welcome to Veloharmony. We're heading out. We're on the north side of town, and we're gonna be doing something different today. Today's Friday. We're gonna film the ride for the weekend on Friday because we got other plans for the Easter weekend. So hope you guys get a chance to get your K's in, guys and girls. We're heading out. Today's ride, we started from a park called West Montgomery Park. I put a route together that is more challenging than the Grand Fondo will be. Almost 1,200 feet of climbing, and ended up being a good ride. We didn't get to execute it completely because there was water on the road. It had rained on Wednesday, and so by the time we did the ride on Friday, parts of the area were covered with rain. So we had to backtrack and didn't get to really challenge the toughest climb, especially on the way back. So we went all the way to Irwin and Piedmont out west. The Grand Fondo goes out there as well, but we took a tougher way to get there. That's really how you have to prepare. You have to do more than you think you need, and so during the event your body will be ready. So it ended up taking us longer because of the detour. We ended up doing slightly more than 6 hours. We had planned to do 4.5, according to the original route I did. But we're gonna get to do this route again because it's harder. We had discussed doing the exact route this coming week, but I think we will change it and make it tougher. I will talk to Paul about it. So we start out of the park here, and that's a climb right there. 2 point something percent.
Yeah.
I've got the blue bike today with my 25s on the rear and 23 on the front. This bike only takes a 23 in the front or lower because of the design of the fork blade from Ritchie and my Campy brakes. If I put anything bigger, it rubs on the brake caliper housing. So it wasn't a problem for me. He designed the bike to work with 25s, but that fork in combination with the Campy Super Record flat brake caliper, it just doesn't leave enough room. The fork can handle it, the caliper blocks, gets rubbed on. And so since I already rode 23s in the front, I didn't bother. So that one will stay with the 25-23 combination. My other bikes, I'm going to 25 in the front, 28 in the rear.
Yeah. Somewhere here.
I was telling him the route, I started it where we are right now because it just beeped on the head unit, the quartz. Since I don't know all these roads, I mapped it out and it will give us directions. I have a general idea. So ended up just the roads being very, very sparsely populated. Even this highway,
Yeah, I know.
even though the speeds are higher, you got fewer cars. Well, what I ended up liking about coming out here, it's about maybe 40 minutes from where we live by car. You don't stop much. You have to ride. There's no way. You can't depend on an intersection to catch up or something. So you really get a great, what I call high exercise potential. And those of you who are trying to get fit, you want to find areas where you can ride without having to stop a lot. It gives you a better workout. Because you can ride the bicycle and roll along and not be doing any work. You don't want to do that. So I try to maximize my time. I don't like to be rolling along doing nothing on the bike. So that's what I like about this area, among other things. I mean, look how nice the shoulder is. So even though the traffic is moving faster, you're not competing for road space all the time. Going downhill here, and what I begin to notice, I do this on every ride, I try to pay attention to what we're going to be dealing with coming back, and this tells me that's a climb coming the other way, because this is like -1. I mean, it's not that bad, but there are two of them in succession, and I end up mentioning to Paul on the way back. See, it says -3, -2. That means it'll be about 6% on that last climb coming the other way. So the reason I recognize that is so you have to save a little something for the end of your ride. Because if you don't do that, you end up just having a bad time of it when you're trying to finish a long ride. All we're doing here is warming up, easing into the ride. Another climb again, coming the other way. So these are the things that stick in my mind. You need to do the same thing if you're going to do a course where you're coming back the other way. So you don't waste energy when you're out there. You got to make sure you're saving something for the end of your ride, depending on how it ends. I had mentioned to Paul that I was wearing my orange shoes. I will be doing the black socks. We have the same socks to go with the kit. He got the same. The reason I did black with the orange, you can see the contrast. So you can see the shoes and the socks. Improves your visibility. I had those shoes long before we got the kit, but orange is my favorite color, so they end up just working so well. Found a deal on the front lights at Western Bike Works, and I've ordered 2 of them. One is red and one is blue. I'll put the blue one on this bike. It's a lighter blue than the bike, but it was on sale and that's all they had. They didn't have black, so I figured I'd get the red for the Coronado. So I like that light in the front. This is a climb here, slight grade. Since we're just warming up, I'm just riding a gear that's very comfortable. I'm probably in like a 23 in the back or a 21. The top cock set, the smallest cock set on this wheel that I'm using is a 25. I have a 39 in the front. During the Grand Fondo, I will be using the Kish bike, the orange one, which has a 36 inner ring. So I will be spinning even more. There were some climbs we were on coming back that were it was pretty tough, even in the smallest ratio. I just went ahead and stood. Now I will explain that when we get to that point. Map the ride to where we use the main highways to get to quieter roads, get off the beaten path, and on those quieter roads the grades are substantial. Not that these highways are a slouch, but when they do the highways they spend more energy on keeping the grades reasonable where possible. On the back roads they just pave them as they are, so the climbs are more significant. On the next ride, hopefully the water will be off the road. We will try to film Johnson Road coming from west to east, because we could not get through on this ride. And you guys and girls will see what I'm talking about. I'm talking steep, long, interesting, curvy climb, just beautiful.
Cool. I can be on this display, and when we get to a turn, it pops up the map of the turn. It beeps, it tells you, it puts there, just like a regular navigation. The name, the arrow. Cool. Once you execute the turn, it gets rid of the map, goes back to your display.
Oh, that's cool.
So you don't have to keep the map on view, you know what I mean?
Right.
Out of the box.
I haven't had the 1000 Garmin very long, and I hadn't used it with courses. I used to have the 800. So it's really, all of these features are kind of nice. They're really easy to use.
Your computer, you can do this with Garmin Connect. That's why I build the courses.
I'm telling Paul to consider using Garmin Connect. I think he's already using it, so that you can load courses. It's better than having paper maps.
It's like a smart head unit.
So I'm excited about what I saw because I had not used it in that manner before.
Garmin Connect is the tool that allows you to download. You know, once you have a machine, that's the same.
Most of the places we ride, we already know. So I'm going to start using it extensively as we do different Grand Fondos and stuff and load their routes in.
Yeah. So after I was finished doing what I wanted to do, I said, go ahead and update. So I put the latest maps as the roads change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it updated. I have the firmware updated. I have the latest maps, everything. Because if you ever need support, that's the first thing they have you do. So you might as well do it.
Yeah.
But it works really well. It's like a smart cyclocomputer.
Bailey something road.
This road we're on is called Bailey Grove Road, and I picked it because of the solitude and the grades.
Yeah.
The way you filmed it, you saw it last week.
Yeah.
It looks really good, even when I filmed it.
And its popularity with cyclists. They call them heat maps on Garmin Connect. They track how frequently riders use roads, and then it gives you an idea which roads to select. I want to film Paul's bike or something.
Even with this thing in my hand, I can shit. Yeah, when you're trying to click. When I'm going to the small one. Look at this road. Look at this road. That's how I can get some of those shots of you. The image gallery, the two ones I sent you, they're in the image gallery.
Yeah, I saw one
I
there.
go for good shots.
Yeah.
Look at this. Looks like a swamp almost.
Yeah.
3.6, 4.3. Got the sun behind us. Section here, get out to 2019. Kill it. Until we get the 140.
It may say 0, but that means it's a slight grade less than 1% because the overlay only displays the main integers.
We'll just keep going.
We're still climbing.
Yeah.
You need to remove what you have there,
Right.
and repair.
Yeah.
Paul's having trouble with his cadence meter on blade appearing on the Garmin. I think the pairing somehow got deleted, and so we sorted it out later.
What I will do is reset it to manufacturer and then pair everything up.
Get rid of all the settings.
He was saying that he wanted to return it to factory settings, and I suggested not to do that because you lose all your settings, and you still got to pair it again. So I told him, why don't you just pair, remove the pairing and then repair. That's what we ended up doing on this ride. We hit stop for some other thing, and we paired it, and it's working. They don't put a lot of good information in the documentation that covers all scenarios, but it turns out that this is a climb here, so I stand, trying to get into it, because we're still warming up. So we're warming up on climbs. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, go, man.
You see the dirt on the road? It rained on Wednesday. There was water over this road. That's what that is. All the sand. That should have been a clue to us of what was to come, because there is a creek that crosses Johnson Road, and that's where we had the water over the road.
Right.
So what I was saying was, we got the pairing sorted, because all we did was we learned that with the 800 Garmin, you can only run 2 active cadence meters at one time. Anything in excess of that, you have problems getting them to work.
No complaint there, my brother. So far, so good.
The road's a little rough here. Since Paul's on my left, I decided I'm just going to track right next to the white line. All I do to do that is I keep my eye on the white line.
Just fine.
Where you look is where your bike goes. I'm glad the grades are not too steep at this point. One thing I like about the route, we're trying it for the first time, it worked out. So we get a chance to warm up between 1 to 4% climb.
It's not set for you.
Because on this route we're hitting 7-8% climbs later. I mean, it's just ended up being very epic. That's the only thing with these roads that are less traveled. They're not kept up as often. Someone usually has to call, and then based on the number of people that live out here, how quickly the city responds, you know, the local guys. But this road is still in pretty good condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like 5% to me. What does that mean? Because 5% is like that bridge, 2978.
Yep.
Okay, now it's level up.
So what I was telling Paul is that after riding in the hills for a while, you get used to the point where the grades don't feel so bad.
Yeah.
Amazing machine.
The body adapts.
Yeah. If you hit this for the first time and you've never been out here before, the body will ask you, what do you think you're doing? Are you out of your mind?
So shortly after this is coming up, you guys will see what I talked about there's a video I made about cadence, you know, is high cadence necessary or something like that? And what I mentioned about when the dog chases you, there was a guy that said he rides at 80 RPM the whole day or whatever. And what I talked about, if a dog is chasing you, you don't have time to shift and get to 80 RPM. You just got to go. You got to be able to vary your cadence. And you always see that come to life in a few moments here. In this video on this ride, we come across a dog that thinks he's a racer. This is farm country, so they have dogs that herd the cattle out here. And I think he's one of those herding dogs, because they will run alongside you. And of course, you know, the dogs will hear the bicycle before they even see it. So he's there waiting for us in his yard as we come by. And I decide I want to play with him.
Anything.
so we go on a little sprint. This is a climb right here. See, it says 4%. It's just nice how it kicks in. And we just easing into it.
I know, huh?
I stand up because it just feels good to stand. We're still warming up. It's only 21 minutes into the ride. We're getting warmed up. We're getting closer to where we can start really riding. You know, I usually give myself 10 to 15 minutes minimum. More is better. So the harder the ride, the more the warm up. And on a ride like this where it's long, you don't have to worry about it. You just ride into it.
Different sections, different roads, all on different days.
We'll pass by one car and we're on this road for a while. There's the dog. There's the dog's talking about. Look at him. He's ready. And I said, okay, come on. I smoked it. I smoked it. There was no time to shift, boys and girls. I just wound it up. I don't remember what my cadence was. I wasn't looking at the cadence meter even while I was narrating. I love to do that to dogs. I've had some of them, after I do that, they stand in the middle of the road and look at me like, I'm going to get you next time.
The boy was charging. The minute I said, hey, stop, he stopped and he went back.
He wanted to race me, man.
Yeah.
We just had a little bit of fun with one of the local residents of West Montgomery County.
I want you to look at the screen.
I think this is where I wanted to show Paul the how the display shows up. I did it in 3D. I selected 3D in my settings, which shows it just like it would on a car's navigation. They don't set that up from the factory. I don't know why. But
this is what I see.
Look how
this is how
easy
the
that is. Look at the
guys
arrow.
And girls.
Look at the arrow. It's telling me where to turn.
Long enough to show you a turn, then it leaves and goes back to your regular display.
Yeah.
Is that cool or what?
It's telling us to turn left. It shows the intersection. By selecting 3D, that's why you see the road has like deeper lines on it. If you don't, it just looks like a regular map. And I don't know why it didn't come from the factory like that. I don't know what board meeting they had to decide to set it otherwise. Maybe it uses more power. I don't know. But I went ahead and just made those changes in the settings. There's the tools in there.
This is Johnson Road. That's the road we need. We're turning right.
This is Johnson Road here. We just left Bailey Grove.
Come back. This is 149, I think.
Okay.
I thought it was 149. We just got up, but it actually ended up being 1097.
No, 1097.
1097?
1097. The west side of 1097.
They have roads going in two directions, and they got the same name out here. It's really weird. It's confusing.
It says Paul's baby here.
The Blade.
Blade is on the road. Did you put 25 on the front?
Yeah, 25 on the front.
So Paul's got a 28 on the back, a 25 on the front. Yeah.
Still trying to get my breathing back from racing that dog, I guess.
This is Johnson Road. Coming back, all of this is tough.
Yeah, look at this road. Imagine coming from the opposite direction.
That's the climb.
It says -2. It's more. I mean, and it goes on for miles. So we didn't get to do it this week because there's water on the road further down because of the rain. But I'm
all of
hoping
this is a climb.
the next
I don't know if you
ride.
remember, it's hard and it's long.
The Grand Fondo does not use this road, but this road is harder than anything they use, other than maybe the one into Anderson. Look at it. So coming the other way, you will still be climbing. It'll be like miles and miles of climbing.
This is just beautiful. Look at this road.
I was on this road maybe more than about 2 years ago.
State flag right there.
With the UMC boys, and I remember that it was a challenging road. I just did not remember the name. We didn't come here that frequently, but I remember it was a great separator. When we came on this road, the group splintered, and we just poured it on. And I had a good experience with it. That's why I remember it. So these are the things I look at. So knowing that we will have to come back this way, you have to pretty much siphon off your energy expenditure on this part of the ride. You got to keep these kind of things in your mind. I mean, look at it. It's sloping down, so that means coming back we'll be climbing for at least 5 to 7 miles. I'm gonna clock it because I want to do it on the next ride before the Grand Fondo doesn't come here, so we want to do it because it's harder. It's in the same region, just not on their route. So we'll incorporate it into our 162 kilometer reconnaissance ride that's coming up. So next Saturday we're doing 162 kilometers. I gotta build a route for that. I want it to be just as hard as this. Incorporate part of the Grand Fondo and find some of these hard-nosed roads that they're not gonna use. You want to train harder than you need to, so if you go to an event and you have a flat or whatever, you can chase back because you got more. That's the way I was taught, and that's the way I like to prepare. So the Grand Fondo would be maybe 700, 800 meters of climbing. Today we climbed almost 1,200 meters, and next week we might try to do 1,200 to 1,500 meters. So I'm looking for more steeper roads to put in. And on this ride here, after we did a detour, you will see Paul even found somebody's like a neighborhood road like to nowhere, and it ended up being an 8%er. And we went off course just to do that. Look at this. So coming the other way, we'd be climbing the whole way. So it's a nice road on the return. So we missed out on that because of the water. So.
Yeah.
But even if the road is not clear this week, I will find a way to where we can use Bethel Road. I'm messing with these cows. Telling them we only eat chicken. That's the Chick-fil-A thing. We only eat chicken. CHIKIN. And they're looking at me. When you talk to the cows, they look at you like, get a life. I like messing with them. They're very peaceful animals. They don't bother anybody.
Yeah.
So if this road is not open, we will still find a way to do that climb that I was showing you from the other direction for next week, because that's like 3 to probably 7 kilometers of climbing. Shortly after here, you see the sign that said high water. We passed it. So we didn't pay it much attention past this guy walking, but look at the road. You can see water was here. It's 2 days after the rain. That rain was at least 24 hours. As we start to get closer, you see the water on the side? There's a bridge. This is like a small creek. So the creek overflowed, and back in that corner there's water all over the road. So you can hear our dismay.
You gotta film this, man.
You definitely. Okay,
Sure.
we gotta film now.
Yeah. Oh man, are you serious right now? But this is where the fun begins, though, brother. This is it.
Yeah, you don't want to ride through that because the water's everywhere, left, right, over the road.
It's everywhere, man.
And I just don't want to deal with that crap. It's just, we don't know how deep it is. It's just like you would in a car. I'm sure a car could drive through there.
It was nice at least we can see this.
Well, we had 24 hours of rain on Wednesday. Steady, solid, heavy, thunder, lightning. all night long. In fact, Constance was scared during the night. So a lot of rain. I don't know how many inches we got. But
yeah, my little girl couldn't sleep when there was thundering.
You can see it.
So we gotta go back.
So the creek overflowed that we went over that bridge.
So we're heading back.
So we have to go back just to be safe. I'm sure cars could get through because they didn't block the road. And there's a gentleman that we passed down the road. He's going to mention that. He said, you think they would have closed the road instead of just saying high water.
Yeah. Yep. We're heading back, boys and girls. It's all in fun. So let's ride.
So the part of this road that we really want to show you, we've already passed. This is the guy who starts to tell us.
Yeah, they should. Yeah.
He says high water, they should have closed the road. Makes sense. That would make too much sense.
Man.
Now they're leaving it up to these people to make judgments, so some people don't make the right judgment. So. So I started to mess with this cow down here because he's looking at us.
All right, boys, you should have warned me. You knew. You knew.
And he's looking at me.
You're like, where do you think it's going?
Ask me what I want to do. 3.5, my brother.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyway, the part of the road that we want to show you has no bearing on that water. We can find a way to show you coming back. Even this weekend, it should be clear by then anyway. But the part we've already come down is the climb going back, and we can get to it by using Bethel Road or some other way. So I'm going to get a little creative and have a backup plan if something is off the next ride we do. Because the climb going the direction we're going, we're climbing now. And this goes on for about probably 10 kilometers. So we don't get these kind of climbs around here that often, that long. I wish the Grand Fondo was coming through here. This is tough, especially later on it. But anyway, we take a detour here. There's a road coming up on our left. I remembered seeing it on the map. I kind of have a general direction. We're headed east, and we need to go north on our left.
This is Bethel Road.
That's Bethel Road.
Yeah, Bethel Road.
Crappy part of it, anyway. It's all farm country down here, a bunch of tractors and stuff. We end up smelling manure, and feel like we're in Back to the Future. But Marty McFly and that guy who hit the manure truck.
There was a part on the right. That's what this piece is. Yeah, so Bethel Road. But I don't want to go to Bridges.
So I'm explaining to Paul which part of Bethel Road this is. Bethel Road is linked to the road that we did last week when we were following those couple of triathletes. But this is the south side of it.
Remember?
Yeah.
It's not the same exact piece. It kind of zigzags to get here.
So this may end up being a longer ride than we planned.
That's okay. That's why we're here.
What's up, boys?
The dogs are like excited to see us.
That's why we're here.
So we don't have to retrace all the way back. Instead of going straight to 1097, we're going to go a little more north.
Right.
So we're detouring here and headed right now north.
What we're trying to do, we're trying to bypass Richards, but we can't.
Yeah.
It's funny. I spend so much time doing the map, I can see the map in my head right now. Yeah. I remember seeing this piece of Bethel Road. When we were getting on 1097, it went to the right.
Yeah.
That's it.
We're trying to bypass the town of Richards, and because of the water, we have to go through Richards.
Yeah, man. That's how people.
You can smell manure here. That's what I mentioned. And Paul starts to tell me about his time on the farm.
We're in the
as
country,
a
man.
young man, he lived on the farm for a few years.
Farm road. Hey, man. That's what I used to do,
Nebraska.
man. Yeah.
That's carrying his hay.
Farm work.
Everything goes up around here.
Yeah.
You just smell the manure, man. I'm
Beautiful
like, man.
manure, man.
Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stinks.
Yeah. Yep. That's what we use, man. To get in the field before you start planting anything else, you use the cow manure, put it in the field, and combine it with the soil.
Paul's explaining how they use manure on the farm. This whole area smells like manure.
Yep. That's what I was talking about, that these little roads being taken care of like they should.
The county roads, yeah, some of them are like that. Yeah, right. Awesome. Very bumpy. Georgetown, Texas. North of Austin. So going there. Mostly roads like these, because one car every 15 minutes.
We're talking about, you know, serious riders and how they use their time. Limited time to ride, they focus, get it over with. That's why they drive places to ride. I think somewhere up here we see a dog. He's all excited, waiting on us.
That's my approach.
I mean, he's spinning around in one spot, just standing and turning in a circle.
Yeah,
There he is.
Just spinning around.
Excited.
Yeah.
Poor guys don't get much going on out here. You boys don't get out much, do
I mean, he was just like almost like he waiting on somebody, like we made an appointment with him or something.
Oh, man. Hold the camera.
He was like round and round.
He's excited. The bike coming.
Like he knew we're coming.
Yeah.
Change. Racing. I say, you think he's fast. Let's see what he got.
So we come around this corner and then I point out to Paul, look at that road.
Look up there.
I see.
The camera doesn't do it justice. That bad boy's going up, and then there's one to the left.
Even this one is
The
going
one
up,
to the
man.
left is off course.
Yeah.
And
That's
Paul's
the
getting
beauty.
excited. That's the one like 8.5%, almost 9%, I think. I was telling him we're already off course. We're gonna really be off course because this road goes nowhere. It dead ends. So, but Paul wants to do it.
He wants to ride this little climb.
Yeah.
Look at that bad boy. That's a curve.
Yeah. We'll come back to it in a minute. That's what we here.
Oh, man.
What?
6 already.
So we go up this thing and it just bites. Look at the overlay, 4% immediately. And we're just, I mean, I'm like, okay. This is like those walls that we used to have in Austin. I lived on the base or something like that. Look at 7%. I mean, this thing, 8% showed up briefly. It was 8 point something, almost 9%.
Yeah. This was real. This was real. We're not done yet. Look at that bad boy.
We're doing 10 kilometers an hour up a climb. Come on.
Nice, man. That was nice. Boys and girls, you don't know what you're missing.
Nice. That's crazy.
You're in Texas. Man, what was that way? 7? Woo! Nice. We're still going, man. Yeah. Yeah. Now, aren't you glad?
Right there, it becomes gravel, and you know, I looked up the map on the map when I got back for this road. It goes nowhere. It dead ends back in there. It's a subdivision that we just passed.
Man.
Right there, that's a subdivision
This is it, man.
fence
He
they're
wasn't
building.
even on our course. He took us off course just to do a climb. This guy's nuts.
Let's go.
Man.
Back to Bethel. This was a beauty. That climb was on. You're not kidding. That was a beauty, man.
I think I've created a monster here. Paul in these climbs. Paul loves climbing. So we head down here, and you would think we would pick up a lot of speed, but no, I guess the surface of the road, plus right down there it starts to go up again. It says -4, and as soon as you get to this corner, we're turning left to get back on Bethel Road to head north, and it just becomes a climb. It goes from like -3 and it just kicks into like 1%. As soon as you turn, you're pretty much climbing. So I really like this course. I'm gonna build something around just this area, get some shorter routes, because right now everything out there is like 4.5 hours. There's 2 people running here, and so they moved over to the left thinking we were gonna stay on the right, so I went left and then they moved over. It's a beautiful morning for a ride. People are out enjoying the day. So we get back to the business of riding, because we're backtracking here, which added about 1.5 hours to this ride. We were going west, now we had to go east and north to do a big loop to avoid that water that was covering the road back there. So it really added a lot of kilometers to the ride. It may say 0, but on the overlay it does not show like 0.5, 0.7. This entire thing is a grade. Now it says 1. I'm keeping my cadence close to 90. We got wind, we got hills, but it is a beautiful road. And another rare car comes by. I don't think we even encountered 5 cars on this entire escapade on these little roads. So I have flagged them as the preferred routes. Get us off the highway. It's beautiful. Look at the trees. Just pretty back here. And you're just climbing most of the time. You can see the road going up.
It's what I'm talking about.
You hear Paul?
That's crazy.
This is good, man. Look ahead.
There's a climb in the distance. With the sun and the trees, it's hard to really discern here.
This is what we came to do.
It bites. It's like 4.5%, 5%, I think.
Yeah.
Right here is a little under 1%. That will soon kick in. You can see the road. The beauty about a route like this is you don't have to push yourself. The hills will make you work. So the grade surprised me because it just jumped. It says 3 on here. It was a little more than that. And I was telling him, I said, man, that came up like a surprise. I just stayed in the same gear, kind of muscled it over. I'm messing with the animals again. I think there are a couple of horses or something in one of these yards. Can't really see it on the video very well. under 1% here. We just got off that little grade back there. We're heading towards the main highway. We're gonna have to go west again. we have finally backtracked towards the major highway here. So we basically retraced our steps somewhat directionally, and now we're gonna go through Richards to get out west. We want to see the backside of the Gran Fondo route. That was the plan here.
Yep. Still going.
There is a 40-kilometer loop on the Century route that we did not see the first time, because it just would have taken too long to get out there. So we're going to ride it today to get familiar with it. That's the place called Piedmont Hills.
That's the cemetery.
I call it Piedmont Hills, but Piedmont is the area. They got hills everywhere out here. I'm getting something to eat. Put something in a tank first hour. So we're hitting the main highway here. That will take us west. So we're on Highway 149 headed west. This is the opposite of the Gran Fondo's route. I want to show Paul another way into Anderson that has a couple of steep climbs as you enter town.
We're going into Anderson by a different route. I want you guys to see there's a wall that takes us into the city. I want Paul to experience that.
So the speeds on this road is like 70, I think, but it's a low volume of traffic. I'll go ahead and hand Paul the camera here. Roll to the front. You can see all the cows on the left there. There's nothing but farm country out here. They're just standing. I'm always messing with them. You can see the road ahead there. It curves to the left and the grade kicks in. So all this downhill momentum we had, you can see it just go away because it gets there in a hurry. It says 2%. It fluctuates back and forth, but this is a climb. So we have to deal with two of these on this way into Anderson. Paul messing with me. That's from different strokes.
Yeah.
What you talking about, Willis? I said we're working. It is
It's
working.
a thing of beauty.
Look at that. Look at that climb. It's rolling. And so we have found longer climbs that is not extremely far away from where we are. So we're going to find a way to incorporate them. I just like coming out there because you don't have to stop very frequently. I mean, you ride for miles before you come to an intersection. And the intersections don't have much there. As Paul calls it, the open road. So I pick up my cadence here. I know we've got a couple more to deal with before we get into town. It helps my leg dissipate any kind of lactate. We're not going very hard, but you always produce them. This county road here, 222, it was on my route. We ended up not using it because it was unpaved. Found that in this county, Grimes County, they're not paving their county roads.
Yeah.
I guess they don't have a big tax base and they don't have the budget. But the county road right on the right, it's all gravel. So they're on the map, but they're unpaved. And you know, in other counties, they're paved and they're nice to use because they have less traffic and low speed traffic. So I had mapped out and included them in the route because on the map I used, it didn't show me that they were unpaved. So we found out I have to make some changes to this route, which I call Richards Bypass. This is a slight descent. It says -0. It's pretty flat. And then we hit another climb here. We're getting close to Anderson.
Look at that one.
Now look down the road, look ahead. Look at those rollers.
Yeah.
And this one here coming back is intense because this is a serious gradient the opposite way. I didn't even bother pedaling. You can hear the wind. So I get in the drops and I squeeze the top tube and just put my nose right over the stem. Have the most control in the drops and it's very stable. I don't lay on the top tube and all that nonsense. Not on the open road. It's just not as safe. And whatever you gain, it's not worth the risk. Whatever you may gain, if anything. So we begin this climb here. You can see it got the 4% in a hurry. We're going into Anderson. That's why I wanted Paul to see. The way of the Gran Fondo is a lot easier than this one. So I wanted him to experience this. Because when we used the other road the last time we came through, it surprised us. But it was short, even though it hit 7%. It wasn't anything as challenging as this one. I like this approach. You have several rollers before you get into town. And this is the main one. There's long and it bites. We're on the climb and you can see it up ahead. I had already selected the gear I wanted to handle this with, so I'm not doing much shifting, just riding. You notice we're staying next to the white line because when you're climbing, you're not going very fast, and it's a double yellow, so a lot of those guys don't like to pass in the opposite lane because their line of sight, you know, you can't see over the climb. That's what that was about. So this is the downhill, and then we got a slight climb ahead before we get into town. That one is not much. The worst is behind us. But so there's 3 rollers before you get into town, into Anderson, and then we'll go through Anderson and go to Piedmont. So almost 1,200 meters of climbing on this course. So it's about 350 meters more difficult than the Grand Fondo will be. This is the last climb into town. This is not much. After you handle those 2, this is easy. It says 5% there bites, but it's not as intense as the other guys. It's not as intense for us, but you know, a 5% climb is a 5% climb. But we've been handling climbs all day on this ride. This is 3 hours into it. So we'll go left at the intersection and we'll pick up this same highway and head west. Go south and head west. We're in Anderson. It's a very tiny town. There's a lot of motorcyclists out here. We saw some signs that had said that since 2006, I think, there were 6 accidents between motorcyclists and cars, 6 deaths. And the sign says to be more careful if a motorist. But the thing was, it was like 2006. I guess there's a lot of motorcyclists coming to this town. We've seen them on these roads.
Anderson Elementary.
Yeah, the elementary school on the right here. It's Good Friday, so nothing's going on. And that's probably why the park where we parked was so vacant. We're headed west towards Piedmont. We're leaving Anderson. This is the route of the Grand Fondo. This is an extra 40-kilometer loop that we have not seen before, and that was the reason for coming out here. We wanted to see what this was about. We didn't really find anything that dramatic, and we recognized that the steepest climbs are before you get to Anderson. And on those little roads that we were doing, like Bethel Road and so forth. But what I learned from riding this course, and I'll show you later, there are spots where we can make up some time. We did not really push much on this ride, but during the Grand Fondo, we're going to be trying to make up time so we don't spend too many hours doing the 160 kilometers, 162 kilometers. So what we'll do is ride the hills at a particular effort, measured but not easy during the Gran Fondo. And then on the flats, we'll use the same kind of effort to make up some ground, because you can carry a certain amount of effort on the climbs, you can make up time. And then on the flats though, you're fighting wind resistance, so really we just want to keep the pressure the same, because we're not going to make up time on the flats. We're better off trying to make up time on the climbs, because if you mess up on the climbs, you can lose a lot of time. That's where you make up time. So we're going to do the most work on the climbs and save something on the flats while still going fairly hard. So we're going to practice that next week before the Gran Fondo. Just beautiful country. Look at that. There's a lot of farms and a lot of people that have cattle out here. Telling Paul what direction this loop takes, letting him know that we're going to go west and then we're going to we're heading north now. We're going to go a little bit west then east, so west, north, then east. Just a big circle around Piedmont. You can see the speed limit that says 65. There's really nothing out here. We get a car now and then, that's about it. And these are the areas. This is the stretch I was talking about. So on a stretch like this, we're going to try to keep it around 40 kilometers an hour. Because right now I'm in zone 1. We're not going hard. So if I put it in zone 4 during the Gran Fondo, we'll be able to hold 40K or more. Because right here it says 41K. These are the spots that I see that we can make up some time. You see the blue bonnet on the right? That's the state flower. Blue flower looking, people stop and take pictures in them and stuff. This time of year they bloom. On either side of the highway you can see them. They don't last very long. They bloom and then within a week or so I guess they probably won't be there anymore. That's the sign of spring. This is a rise. So all these little grades, I kind of put them in the database in my brain. And these are the points of the area where you want to push. You don't want to back off too much. We found a lot of long grades near the Piedmont area. This is one of them. We've been climbing for a while. pull out a banana bread, open it. You got some for Paul. Because I had looked, the terrain here is kind of flat. There's another area we have to make sure we keep pressing. Washing down the bread with some water. And we're just really enjoying the scenery here. So during the Grand Fondo, we're going to be riding. We're not going to be coasting here. We'll be probably 45 kilometers an hour through here, depending on the conditions. So you look at the road and it doesn't look like a grade, but it is. It's curving to the right and it's going up. Anywhere between 1 to 3%. So you get a bit of a descent and then it kicks back up. The pavement was very good. It was decent. Nice road. Almost like 2920. It's not buttery smooth or anything, but it's fine.
I want them to see. I want them to see that road back there. It's a beauty.
Just look how pretty that is. Just beautiful country. There's a cow over there. He is huge. Look like he's been working out or something. Paul said, look at that bad boy. He's big. The camera doesn't do him justice.
Yeah.
He looked like he'd been to the gym. It's one cow just sitting down there, just huge. You look like the ones that they take to the shows and stuff. Now right there we noticed some cyclists coming up the opposite way, and I thought that was a follow vehicle, but this was a guy. He saw us, so he was waiting to pass. We waved at him because they had been trying to motion for him to go around them, but he was waiting. A lot of times in these little towns, the people are very patient. They're not rushing anywhere like people in the cities do. So he's just sitting back there. He doesn't mind. But then shortly after we saw those guys, we came across another group that's out here training, and they actually end up having their own follow vehicle. And that was really cool. I don't know if you can see them in the distance there. There's a vehicle coming on the left. Right there. That's the vehicle. They're in front of them. There's a couple of them. That's their follow vehicle. He's got his flashers on. It doesn't matter which way direction you go on this road, it looks like it would be interesting. So the next time we come out here, we'll probably do it the other way in the future, because whatever downhills we're enjoying will become climbs. That's the way you want to do some of these terrains. Do them from different directions. The challenges are different. If you watch my cadence, whenever the road flattens or downhill, I ramp it up. That's why I talked about working on your versatility. You need to be able to do that so that you give your legs a chance to refresh themselves while you ride. Because, we spend 6 hours in the hills. You have to recover while you're riding to be able to continue the climb effectively. So it says -0. It's pretty much a flat road. You can hear the wind. And we're doing almost, well, it was 40, like 37 kilometers an hour. But up there, it will kick up a little bit where it curves a little to the left. And what I was doing is just feeling for what gear I needed to be in to make sure I kept the pressure the same. So right about here, I would probably downshift the cog because it's not that steep. But just to make sure my legs stayed fluid, I had no trouble downshifting to keep the cadence in the same range.
Yeah. Ooh, look at the muscles on that boy.
There's a horse over there Paul's talking about. Look at it. That's what he's talking about. Those guys eat plants and they're so muscular. People think you need meat to be muscular. A high percentage of my diet, upwards of 90%, is non-meat stuff. At this point, we're rolling here. We've got a groove going. Wind's blowing. When the road curves like that at speed, I have a tendency to just keep that pedal up. I wasn't sure. I'm not familiar with this road. I don't like to be pedaling that road and curving like that. You can see our speed going down. We dropped about 10 kilometers an hour because this is a grade. Now they're registered. So by coming out here and riding this zone 2, zone 3, whatever we got to, when we come to do the Grand Fondo, we would have done the reconnaissance and then we can just focus on pushing. So during the Grand Fondo, we'll be about 2 zones up from this. We'll be in zone 4 when we come through here. There's a cow sitting under the tree right there in the shade. All the other guys in the sun.
Under the shade.
I start messing with him. Try to get his attention. He ignored me. He ignored me. That's a smart cow. It's out of the sun.
Get here to work. You can see this terrain. It's just
up and down, lots of wind, it's exposed. But for the most part, you don't have to be concerned too much about traffic. You can just ride. There are the blue bonnets again on the right. There's some parts of the highway, not on this ride, where the blue bonnets are just in abundance and people will stand and take pictures. People park their cars on the side of the highway and take pictures. It's a normal thing around here in the spring, in the state. Listen to that wind. This part of the course is very exposed. So with the wind and the grade, I decided I'm just going to stand a little bit, kind of change the way my muscles are working. So doing the Grand Fondo, I'll probably be in the drops, trying to eke out some speed. A little warm, so I decided to pull off the arm warmer, and then the wind starts blowing, so I held the bars till it settled down a little bit.
Getting warm, huh?
So I'm holding the bar with my left hand and peeling the arm warmer off my left hand. Now, the one I took off is in my left hand, so as I slide it off, I'm just going to slide it over the other one while it's in my hand. And they fold onto themselves like that. And I just fold it and put it in my pocket. It's easy. It was a little uncomfortable. It wasn't too bad, but 20C in those climbs, I'm like, okay, it's gonna only get warmer. Let me put it up. Check for traffic and resume. Since the road is not busy, I plant myself properly so that Paul can get a good draft, because that wind is swirling around. So if you're going to do a Grand Fondo, you need to prepare not just the actual terrain, but the distance, because if you try to increase your distance too much, you can start cramping and other things because you're overworking the muscles. So you've got to gradually do that. You know, all winter we rode between 3 to 5 hours. So this is well within our range, but we just wanted to revisit this terrain with the relentless climbing, which we don't ride in regularly. And I'm glad we did, because I feel that we're going to be really prepared. I like the plan, because chance favors the prepared mind. Looks like a new bridge here. It's brand new. Well done. It's nicely paved. All the state highways are well paved. It's the county roads that we found in this area that just the gravel and anywhere in between that you can't count on. Besides the false flat and the wind and all of that, you've got to pretty much just set yourself to the task of turning those pedals. You can't be concerned about what's going on. This is my position when I'm just kind of rolling. We're not really trying to eke out maximum speed. If we were, I would drop my elbows, maybe my arm parallel, and lower my torso. But this is the position where when you're in the pack, this is where I spend most of the time, there and on the tops, especially when you're conversating and so forth. So we're just kind of cruising. It's a good shot there, Paul. Good shot from the side. That's where I spend more than 85-90% of my ride. So at this point, we're headed south into Montgomery County. We left Piedmont.
We may need to change the battery, my brother. The battery looks low. Yeah, it looks low. We'll film from here to get off this road and we'll change it. The beginning of Bethel Road will stop. Paul's having mid-afternoon snack. We've been on the bike all day.
Yeah.
Lone Star's Trail. There's a trail right here.
So we get a lone vehicle coming up. They weren't close. They were far and few between. The Sam Houston National Forest might as well be a little town. It covers a huge area up there. I looked on the map. It goes all the way east of where we are now, near Highway 45. So they weren't playing when they set this national forest aside. It's a chunk of land. It might as well be a little village or city, really. It's huge. So many roads go through the forest.
Okay.
I'm not sure what we're talking about there at all. I had just turned on the camera, gave it a Paul, and oh yeah, I remember now. I told him that we needed to find a place to take a break because there were no restrooms that we came across. We stopped in Richards on the way back to get refills, and the one grocery store there, they didn't have restrooms. I'm like, come on. So we were able to find a spot after this section here on one of the back roads. This road, the speed limit is 55. You can see how empty it is. There were a lot of motorcyclists on the road, so it seems like I can see why they come out there. It's beautiful. Who wants to ride a motorcycle in traffic? It makes sense to bring it out here. So if you look in the distance, you can see the road going up. And right here, we can feel it. It's just a false flat right now. It's probably a point down. Now I jumped to 2. That's how quickly, look at that, 3. It's hovering between 2 and 3. It gets there quickly, and you gotta, what I do is I downshift 2 cogs when it starts to do that. When it gets there in a hurry, I downshift so I can be in a gear and get ahead of it. Right there, I downshifted, dropped it on a small chain ring. Because I realized it was going to continue for some time. It's a good climb. And for a major highway, normally you don't have these nice grades on it. So it's good. So this road goes through the National Forest, and so does the side road that we're going to take for our health break. And so that kind of got me curious, and so when I got back, I looked on the map, and it's just a huge area that's set aside, just all green. Even on the map, you just see nothing but trees. And look ahead, there's another climb coming, and the curve's right there. Look at that. So by keeping my cadence up here, keeps my legs fresh as we approach that climb so that they're ready to fire. The climb begins. You feel a little bit of a drag first. Nice, yeah, it says 1%. It gets there in a hurry. It was a little more gradual than the other one, so it wasn't that difficult to find a rhythm. So I found the proper gear and just rode the climb. Kept my cadence close to 80 most of the time. It wasn't as steep as some of the other ones. It's a beautiful sunny day for a change. With all the rain we had earlier in the year, this was a nice change. We put the red light on in the back. We didn't use the front because these highways are so isolated, and we just wanted to be super visible. You get a car maybe every 7 to 10 minutes on most of the roads we're on, and since they're so isolated, we felt like it might be a good idea to just put the light on. And we made that decision about midway through the ride. So that's why it's on a sunny day, for extra visibility. It's a lot brighter than it indicates on the camera, of course. Guy on a trike. So this was Good Friday, so the roads were empty pretty much. I looked at the route for the Gran Fondo, and they're having us repeat a loop just to get to 162 kilometers. And I had mentioned to Paul right up here when we turned at the intersection that I wanted to do the entire route. But what I'm going to do is create a more challenging route for he and I to do that will cover the same distance, but not the exact route, because we've done the whole route. So I don't want us to get bored with it before the event.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling him. I want to do the full course.
We can do that.
So we'll do the distance, and we'll create our own course, something more
we're
challenging.
On the downside of a 6-hour plus ride. Does a bug on me? Okay. So I hope you all got a chance. We did the group ride today, Friday, because we got other plans for the weekend. So we decided to get that knocked out. Paul's gonna be out of town. I'm gonna be chilling. So we figured we'd knock it out. 6 hours.
Here we go.
I mean, we've been on the bike all day. It's 2:34 p.m. 2:34 p.m. and we're still on the bike. So we're closing out this ride. But this has been an adventure of epic proportions.
That's what it takes to get ready. You got to really prepare. So you go up there physically and mentally ready. So we're doing more than the Gran Fondo requires as far as the challenge. So when we get out there, we'll be able to pour it on.
See what it was. Might be a deer. Was it a deer?
We heard a noise in the brush there. I didn't see what it was, but I think Paul saw a deer.
That bike.
We're on one of these side roads. We got off the highway, and they're nicely paved, and it's got a lot of nice little climbs.
Yeah, we leave that. After you come down that hill.
We're talking about a hill out of Anderson. When you leave Anderson, it really kills your legs. We got to be ready for that. We may ride that one more time just to get comfortable with it, because it's like a wall when you leave in the city. Very deceiving. We're talking about the route for the Gran Fondo.
Southwest, then it comes north. 1486 to bring you Guadalupe. Right. So you come back that way, it takes you out of the way.
That's the loop they're having us do twice into Richards. We'll do the Richards to... I'm not sure what the city name is. Let me see. It's a beautiful city. The name is pretty. There's nothing there, but... Apollonia. So they're having us do the loop from Richards to Apollonia twice in order to get to 162 kilometers. And I don't want to do it twice in training, because it's one of the most boring sections. It's prairie, windy, flat. Few rollers, but nothing exciting. So I don't want to get sick of it before the event. So we're going to do something harder than that loop to get our 162 on our prep ride next week. I got to get creative with the map.
so steep like that, you can't get your cadence up.
So this is kicking in. You can see the climb.
I'm gonna go ahead and stand.
It says 5%. It's more than that.
2 cogs. See?
So I stood and shifted up a couple of cogs. You put more power to the pedals.
I'm gaining more speed because I'm in a bigger gear.
You use more energy standing, but sometimes it's best when you can't spin because you don't have enough of a low ratio. You can attack in a harder gear too. That's what I'm showing Paul.
You see what I'm talking about? It's like when it's very steep and you want to go, it's better to just like shift up, stand, use your upper body strength.
Yeah.
Get a gap. Then you sit, shift back down. Yeah. Because if the hill is too steep, you can't even spin unless you got a low gear.
Yeah.
39.25 was not enough for that. Yeah. 36 probably. Don't ride here often. They come to a hill like that, they will start struggling and it won't change what they're doing.
Yeah.
Stand just for a little bit.
That's why you gotta
just feels good when you do that.
constantly thinking.
Huh?
You gotta constantly thinking, man.
Yes, you have to constantly think. And so what happens is when you do that, it feels better instantly when you stand.
Mm-hmm.
When you shift up and stand, it feels good. Even here, if I go and just stand, it relieves my muscles.
Yeah.
The body just feels good immediately.
Yeah.
You get a chance to stretch your back.
Yeah.
But a lot of climbing, it's hard on your back.
Yeah, it is.
My ride at 60 RPM. My body feels good when I'm standing. This thing just going.
Just follow.
Once I saddle shift it down. Steep pitches you stand. That's the way to do it. When it's real steep, you stand.
Standing will relieve the muscles because they work them in a different manner, and it just sometimes takes the strain out of trying to muscle a gear that's not little enough for you to turn smoothly. It just changes your rhythm up a bit. It actually feels good.
Right. Yeah.
This entire return on this side road is up. It may say 1%, but it roams between 1 and 3. This part kicks up here, so it's kicking in. This is part of the Sam Houston National Forest. They got some trails there. Making a joke about riding in the city, where as soon as you get out, there are cars everywhere. Every 5 seconds you got a car coming by, pretty much every second. Whereas out here, nothing. Every now and then they show up, that's about it. It's just great riding. It's far away, but I guess you have to make the time to get the benefits. So the exercise potential is higher because there's no stoppage. That's the road we backtracked on earlier. We're not going to use that. We're heading back in.
This will take us to that little. It'll take us to Johnson, which is on the right, and then the road, the first road here. And then this guy would wake up and say, "Found course."
Next time we're out there, we're going to take that road we just passed and come back up on Johnson Road with a 10. I think it's a 10-kilometer climb. I may be wrong. I'll clock it. But it's a long climb. You have to pace yourself.
Yeah.
This road will take us back to the first little cutoff that we use called Bailey. I think it's Bailey Cove. So we're just using this to get to a little side road that would take us to West Montgomery Park. We're kind of winding it down. We passed our turn right there. Not that familiar with it because we had to do our detour. The course is not functioning until you get back on course. It tells you you're off course and then it goes to sleep. That's the road. We got there quicker than I thought, so we're moving.
Okay, Bailey Grove. Yeah.
Bailey Grove Road.
Bailey Grove.
It's a little gem. These are the kind of roads that's perfect for getting a good workout. So with the wind and all the rolling grades in here, at this point in the ride, I'm thinking about the hill before I'm turning off the alarm on my phone It usually beeps at 3 in the afternoon for me to. It reminds me to get ready to pick up my daughters. So they're off school today. So I pushed the button on the side, and I think it just snoozes it. So it kept coming on every 9 minutes on this part of the ride, but we're almost done. So I didn't want to mess with it. I wanted to keep riding and get it over with. So we get here. This is the final road that takes us. This is 149. It will take us to the West Montgomery Park. Has a nice shoulder, so I turn onto the shoulder. And I basically told Paul I wasn't stopping. I told him cars up, cars coming, but I'm gonna turn and use the shoulder so he would know. Everything here is a grade. And look at this nice shoulder. And the funny thing is, the shoulder is only when you get outside of town. In town, if you ride this road into Montgomery, there is no shoulder, so you have to use the main lane. And most of the drivers are aware of it, so it's not that big a deal out here. These people in these little towns have a different attitude. They're not always in a rush like people from the city. I've noticed that just on these few rides we've been out here, and some of the other rides we've done, where it would be organized, you'd have SAG and so forth, but just generally the people will come sit and watch us ride. I thought that was cool. And those of you who saw the Spirit ride, you saw people sitting on the side of the road watching us ride. The small towns, people lay back, they enjoy themselves. People in cities are always rushing around.
That's cool.
Hey boy, what you working on?
I'm talking to the colt, the horse across the way. At this point, I'm thinking about there are 2 climbs before we get to the park, and the last one is steep. It doesn't look steep, but it is. Anywhere between 6 to 8%, I guess. It may stay at 1%, but it's more like one day. Now it goes to 2. The entire return we're climbing on this road. I don't know if those of you who remember early in the ride, we're just rolling downhill. That's what was on my mind. When you're rolling downhill and you got to come back, you got to look at how much you're rolling downhill. I'm in my endurance zone. I mean, for the most part, most of this ride, my endurance zone. When you're training for very long events, you want to train in your zone 2. It doesn't mean the whole ride you'll stay there, but that's the primary zone. It's okay if you go below or go above. It's gonna happen. If you have to stop, you will go below. And sometimes if you're feeling good and you want to hammer a hill or get on with a fast group for a bit, you will go above. But the purpose of your training should focus on keeping you in endurance zone so you can finish and complete the duration of the event or the ride. So sometimes you have to let a faster group go so you can finish instead of burning yourself out. So when you're train primarily the focus on zone 2. When it's time to go faster, you'll be ready. This one is almost 6%. And yeah, and I had told him it didn't look that tough, but it's very deceiving. The Gran Fondo does not come on this road on the return. We're just using it because we parked somewhere else. We're doing our own thing. That's what made this ride a lot more challenging. We tackled more hills. You can see the road. You see the little slight grade. It's saying 2-3%, but it doesn't look it, but you feel it. I think the park is right up here. Yeah, we've already. That's the end of the ride here. That's the park. West Montgomery Park.
609. No, we'll do that right.
So we're back. We're in the park grounds.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
This
you
is it,
boys
man.
and girls got a chance to get out there. This is what we did on Good Friday.
That's it.
Happy Easter. Hope you enjoyed your holiday, your
That's it,
weekend, your Easter holiday.
Piedmont miles, that's the whole course. I registered 92 miles here.
Yeah, I wasn't aware until Paul mentioned that we're close to getting 100 miles. Just seemed to take too long with the backtracking, and we're not really riding at our Gran Fondo pace per se. So we had been out here too long. I was ready to wrap it up.
We did a ride today that was harder than the Gran Fondo is going to be. The steeper grades, everything was tougher. So we're going to breeze through that bad boy. So next week we're going to do the entire course as they have it written out.
So get out there, get your K's in. Don't let anything stop you.
Our course is done. Yeah.
Stay tuned for the epilogue.
That's it, man. So those of you who didn't get to go out, you need to get out there, fire those documents.
Yeah.
147. Man, we're not playing. You know what? We did 147. 147 kilometers. On a flat road, we have 180.
With the only vehicle here.
Yeah, and look, it said that as a personal record. Personal record. I told you the hill was top.
Yeah.
I'll show you that. Yeah, you can put it on the truck and set it up the way. But here, like that. So, look, it said there's a personal record on this thing. Farthest distance, 147 kilometers.
Wow.
Most climbing, most ascent, 1142 meters. Wow. Dude, you remember
when we did the other one, it was 8 something.
See, that's why I told you this was route. We got to keep this route.
Yeah, this is.
We got to keep this route because other than the water, what happened is where the climbs that we did today, on that back road, Bethel Road.
Yeah.
And then if we come back when the water is clear and we come back on Johnson Road, man, Johnson Road does not play. 1142 meters, and then I'm trying to see. Then we went 149 into Anderson.
Yeah.
And we came back on 149 out of Anderson. I'm looking at where we picked up the ascents. The steepest climbs were going into Anderson, Bethel Road, Johnson.
Yeah.
And coming back on Johnson will be even tougher. Ooh. That's what you use this for. So I will keep this route because this is, and it's not going to be 6 hours. If that road is open, it'll be 4.5. If Johnson Road is open, it's 4.5 the way I had it mapped out. We had to back up, come all the way out, back to the highway. Yeah. Oh,
that was a plane.
Epic ride. Epic ride. Ooh. This is the kind of ride that takes you from where you are to another level.
Yeah.
But it's, that's just the way it is. You want to be fast, you got to do that.
You got to do the work.
You got to do the work, man.
You got to do the work.
No other way around it. It definitely would need to be white over pollen that's on it.
Let me set this thing.
Yeah, take your time. Let me drink some of this. I'm glad we got enough. I like to get back with drinks. I hope they can see me. I like to get back with drinks in my bottle.
Yeah.
We did 6 hours and we stopped once. When we ran out of water. It was a cool day. It started, what was it, 57?
Yeah.
So like about 14 C maybe. And right now it's probably 20 C maybe. So it was a mild day. I have my base layer on, my MD base layer.
Yeah.
It worked flawlessly. Had to take out my arm warmers.
Oh.
My legs are tingling.
Yeah.
Oh.
Put this bad boy up.
So I told Melissa, I said, I have a conference on the north side of town on Friday. She knew. she threw something at me.
You had a conference.
But that's what they understand. They act like because they go into some office, the world's supposed to stop, the Earth's supposed to stop rotating on its axis. Let me move that camera a little bit. They think because they go into an office to work for somebody that the Earth is supposed to stop rotating on its axis around the sun. So I told her I have a conference on Friday. How do you take the day off? Because I didn't know they were going to be off at school on Thursday. I said we need to find somebody to watch the kids. And so then she came up with the idea with Celia. She started throwing stuff at me because I said I have a conference. She said, "You're going to ride? Just say you're going." I said, "It's a conference. It's a 6-hour conference. You ever been in a meeting this long?"
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, epic. We got the whole park to ourselves.
Yeah.
Show it up, but this is, I'm glad I found the park on the map.
The park.
found this park on the map, and you see the tool came on because I shook it.
Okay.
It's okay. Just what you do is you just touch that or something.